Should we talk about some League of Legends a little bit?
All right.
Beyond LCK and LPL. LEC heading into sorry, I have to get this right. The groups. The language around LEC is just so vastly confusing that try to get it right. This is the stage of the
here's
tournament
the thing.
with GSL groups.
Confusing is one thing. By definition, to call the best of one first stage season when you already call your whole circuit, that is probably the stupidest naming decision ever, maybe in esports history. That's mental. That would be like calling the fucking group stage of a random tournament in CSGO the major final. You know what I mean? Oh, that's not going to cause problems, is it?
Oh yeah, because they have winter season, spring season, and summer season. So you would think that season finals would happen in winter, spring, and summer. But no, season finals happens at the end of the larger season, which encompasses 3 mini seasons that are the precursor to the actual event. And also, you might be confused because finals implies that it's just the last match of a tournament. But no, it's actually a playoff. But each different phase, winter, spring, and summer, has playoffs, but the finals are different than that. So it's just layers and layers of confusion in terms of language. And Vitality. You want to start with Vitality?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, I'll just address one thing I said on Competitive Edge, which isn't out yet. Here's why it makes no sense to say that what was proven about Vitality is every player is shit. So Photon's good in lane, but not actually that good. Bo was a total fraud the whole time. Perks can't lane and is washed and was a fraud for 6 years. He was just propped up by the super team. Upset was overrated and was never worthy to fucking get a biro and fill out the last little bit of Reckless's whole body tattoo of Varus / blacking his whole legs out. There's the thing. I know you're on the LEC broadcast nowadays, Reckless, but I think he took that critique of the talent by Froscorin a little bit too literally. And then finally, you got Kaiser, who's obviously doing nothing and can't even just play fucking Yumi. So the premise goes that they're all shit players. Then the reality is this, Monty. In at least half the games, they're in the game, could win the game, are in winning positions, are getting kills, are getting into good scenarios, are having lanes ahead. That implies the only thing they had was player strength. Actually, player strength's what got them into these games. But because they had no coordination and comms looked like shit and they did not streamline their game, they could never close a game. They could never actually coordinatedly, at the end of the game, win the big team fight. So to me, it's actually the opposite. I don't look and go, Perks can never play League of Legends again. Upset, what a bum. Wow, Bo, he should never be. I go, get these guys to teams that work for them. This is something that Seal was talking about on the episode that you can go on this channel and watch of Best Damn League Show. He made the point that he actually thinks like a concept that Peter Dunn came up with. It's a bit like Bill Belichick, is he doesn't try to get the best players. He gets someone who does what he needs. So what he does instead, Peter Dunn, is he tries to think which players enhance and coordinate with this player's strength. Who can I bring in that works with him? It's why in Herex right now, aren't they geniuses? Everyone told me Vetio was exposed. He was always trash. It's only because of Yumi and he's a bum. But magically, you put him with Yankos. What do you know? And his old support, what do you know? He's back to carrying games again, isn't he? So that's what they haven't done in Vitality. Like the problem in Vitality, this, by the way, I'll just tell you now, is why you don't let players pick fucking teams. Because players won't just do this. They'll also, just like fucking Nico and LeBron, when it goes to shit, they're still big names. They'll just fuck off to some other org and leave your org in the ditch with 1 million trashed out players and shit contracts. What you do is you design the team. So when I look at this team, one thing no one ever talks about is this has to be one of the greatest coaching failures of all time. I critiqued Yamato Cannon for coming second and third with the super team. This guy came last place. In the first split, he didn't get to playoffs. And in the last split, just with Upset and Bo basically and Photon rather going ham, he got to third. That was the best he got with the super team. And he even got a better player than he got Upset. So to me, I look at this team, it's like they have to split it up. You can't keep most of these players. It hasn't worked. The coaching looks like an utter failure. I'm going and getting a big name coach if I'm them. And I also think if you look at the team in general, it doesn't make any sense now, unfortunately. It doesn't make any sense. Like I made that joke to you. They counteracted Perks' 2 strengths. He can't do the late game genius move because they're not ever in position to do it and they're not coordinated. And he can't calm and shot call because 2 people speak second language fucking English barely. You counteract his whole strengths.
I don't know if I totally buy into the Vitality coaching failure angle, because I'm not even sure how possible it is to coach some of these players. Again, Perks
Yeah,
has.
but you're picking the players as well, supposedly. Someone's picking them, right? Who's picking them?
Well, Perks was there before Carter showed up,
Hooks
right?
was good last year, mate. I don't care what anyone's. Here's another thing.
He
Shall I
was
tell
good
you
last
something
split.
really weird, Sam? I'll tell you something really weird, Monty. This will blow your mind. Go out there. You can do it publicly, but do it privately. It'll blow your mind. Go privately and ask coaches what they think of Perks as a mid laner. None of them will tell you he's bad.
No, I think he had
now. They won't say he's bad now, mate. Every fan tells me he's total trash.
He was good. He was good in the spring split. He was arguably the most consistently good player on Vitality last split. So I don't think he's washed, but it's not like Carter was coming into an entirely, neutral environment, nor did he pick Perks. I think that Perks rightfully has earned a spot at the table when it comes to being able to decide team strategy, and the team, has to revolve around him. And also, as a coach, it depends on what your ownership is doing. If your ownership isn't empowering you and they're saying that we value Perks more than you lose a lot of power. Speaking to Carter, he's been on this show. I think he's very well informed about the game. When he had an opportunity with lesser known players where he probably had more control due to, kind of a lack of fame and previous accomplishments on Misfits, he did design ways that they could win games. He was part of the reason why VTO was able to get these MVPs. It's not that I'm not ready to trash the Vitality coaching staff, because also from all the information we have, Vitality was doing very well in scrims. So there's some sort of issue that comes to translating these performances to stage, which may not actually be the coach's fault. The problem with winning too many scrims is you get a lot of false data. You think things will work in a professional match that just don't work.
By the way, that's been confirmed many times over. They were, before this split, one of the best teams in scrims.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is, again, it can't be players. The players cannot be trash and do that.
Right. And also, if something is working in scrims and the coach doesn't think it's going to work on stage, but the players do, then you get into a battle, and sometimes the players win and want to run these, team comps or strategies on stage, and they end up losing. So there's a lot of
speculation I've got for you. I never said this on Best Damn League Show, but I know how players work, especially in Europe. I will bet it wasn't the coaches, Monty. I will bet it is the other teammates of Bo who forced him onto the Maokai Poppy duty. That is what happens when players who are the carries lose faith in their jungler. And what they tell him, especially, think about this, you're a young kid who barely had a career in the LPL. You're in another region speaking a second language, surrounded by foreigners. No, Asian doesn't cover it. A Korean is nothing like a Chinese guy. They barely have a connection themselves. There's even a national rivalry, for fuck's sake, right? So as a result, if then some super experienced players from the region who have way bigger names than you, way more power in the org, like you're saying, if they tell you, you know what, mate, we're done with your carry games, you're just on Maokai now, that's how that ends up happening. That's why democracy sometimes isn't the way, believe it or not, guys. So that's even what I looked at. Like, I think the team ruined Bo. He definitely didn't play great, but they ruined him. They cut his legs out from under him, destroyed his confidence, turned him into a fucking shit jungler bot who just went bot, and then that's it. And then they kick him out the team. Even the way they did that, I thought was pathetic, mate.
I mean, I think he's going to get another opportunity. He's too good. His potential is too high to not get another shot somewhere on a LCS or LEC team. And especially because people could just tell that this team fell apart from the inside. It's obviously not a lack of individual ability on this roster. It's a lack of communication, a lack of trust and synergy. The only player
who was legit bad was definitely Kaiser. He did have a nightmare split, in my opinion. Everyone else, like I say, I think the Bo one I think he was sidelined. Photon was still good. He was just mad shaky in parts of the games. Perks, he had problems in laning phase. I mean, he couldn't really get to a lot of the scenarios where he would have carried the game. And Upset was good. I don't care. You know what? I don't care. There we go. Upset was good. How you like them apples? What are you going to do about it? You're going to cancel me, are you dickhead? I've made my whole career so you can't. Go for it. He's good. How do you like them apples? Exactly. Just leave it at that. Didn't say he was the best, but he was good.
I think
not on Aphelios.
I was going to say
asterisk.
Some of those Aphelios games.
That wasn't every game. By the way, spoiler: when someone like him hard forces Aphelios, that just screams, "I need to be able to do everything myself. I can't trust anyone on this team." That screams that to me, Monty. It's like
I
back
think
in the day when Reckless used to play heel in lanes that weren't even about heel, because he would play heel and like Zaya, and his whole shit was like, right, I have to use the ult to protect myself and heal because I can't trust my support. Like, that's how that shit goes. When people lose their faith as ADC, they get selfish.
Yeah, I am curious where Vitality goes because this is their second year of spending really big, and they have done.
They might be in this summer final still. There's a very good
Yeah,
chance.
it's possible. Yeah, it's definitely
There's one
possible.
last run available.
Which maybe if they get some more practice with their new jungler, might actually do something. I didn't think he looked terrible. I think he looked okay in some of these games, but switching off of Bo is probably going to change the way you play pretty significantly. Maybe it'll be a new meta by the time we get there. It's a couple months in the future.
Why not bring up a fucking ERL player for support? Try and find one that like can duel with upset for 2 weeks and play well, and then just bring him in the game.
Maybe they will.
I don't trust. You're saying that like they do logical things in this team. I don't trust any of their instincts right now, mate. I don't trust any of them.
I thought Douglas looked pretty good for the situation that he was thrown into in this roster.
He's right.
Yeah, but what do you expect from a new player, right? I mean,
you've been saying that. I wouldn't put him in the game, so I wouldn't expect anything. You're saying like, yeah, he's okay. Well, what was that the point to bring him in to be okay? We're trying to win the game.
Yeah, but I think
what you're saying about the coach. Guess what? A coach who cannot stand up to the management is by definition a bad coach.
Who knows what's going on? I'm sure the story's going to come out later.
If you let them do that to you once, you're going to let them do it to you again, mate. Like in this scenario, what you're talking about, I've talked about this a million times. I've seen this happen a billion times in sports, Monte. What Mick Carter is what you just said. He's like Peter Dunn. He's a small team coach. If you give him a bunch of broken pieces and all right players, he might put something together that's really clever and be good because they all have to listen to him. He's in charge. But if you put him in a room with Perks and Upset and these massive names and people that have been bought out and buyouts, suddenly he has to dance to their jig. He's not the one leading the way anymore. And you see people, happens all the time in sports, mate, where they are really good coaches, but they drown in that pool of massive egos. They can't. It's not their game even. In fact, if you see how soft-spoken he is, he doesn't seem like the guy who manages massive egos. He seems like the guy who comes in and shows you the X's and O's. Here's what we're going to do differently, guys. Here's a VOD review. In our team, by the way, we all even know we're not the best, so we're going to streamline it. You're going to play a tank. He's going to play the fucking Jarvan. He's going to play Yumi. You can't do that when you got people. Dude, even Kaiser's won LEC. He's been a Worlds a bunch of times. Like, these names are enormous. They're enormous.
Yep. I think it's hard walking into a room where Bo and Perks were already there and knowing that you have to deal with that and then manage those egos. And maybe he wasn't the guy for that. And that could be the fault of coaching. Sure. I just don't think that I think Carter in a different situation, we have seen him be very good and he can be good again. That's all I'm saying.
And you agree. Fire him, put him on a small team.
But also, as far as Vitality's management goes, I agree with your take that you can't kowtow to the management in theory. I agree that doing that is a slippery slope for you as a coach, but in practice, a lot of people will just do that because they don't want to have the conflict and they don't want to have the risk associated with being fired.
You know, when you said earlier, like, how did you phrase it? Let me think how you actually phrased it, though. I think you said something along the lines of, what was it about that a player like Perks should have a say in who they sign. I disagree completely because of the word say. Like, yes, if you mean say as in he gets to be in the meeting and have input and then someone else decides, that's fine. If he actually gets to decide, I have a massive problem with that because I'm sick of these players being friends with someone from Solacure or other teams and then
that's why Carsey was in this team.
That don't work. Instead, what I want them to do is it's more like Perk scores. Here's the 3 junglers I want to play with. You go away, your coaches pick them and they pick the one that they think fits Perks. That's how I want it to be done. Now, I don't know what Perks' contract is. Maybe he agreed to join because they say I'd carte blanche. If so, by the way, then he should carry some of the can. That's why also, one thing I am sick of is this. The strategy of tanking aggro for your players works great in a top team, dumb fox, like G2, because that means grabs means you don't get abused when you have a super team. It's a stupid idea in a bad team, because in a bad team, it means you don't know who's actually at blame. No, all that happens is now, by the way, spoiler, Carter will be fired because of this. Of course he will be. He'll have to, they're not going to fire the guy on the massive contract. He's going to have to carry the can and someone else will come in and try and make this nightmare fucking lineup work. And it probably won't work with them either, right? We'll see. To see who it is.
Well, I think that's the thing about Perks is when this roster with Perks was assembled, that's why Carsey was in there, was because he was very good friends with Perks, right? So,
and then look, when Carsey's good, when you put him in a different team where you have a coach that actually has some, and he put him with players that made sense. Now he looks twice as good, right?
Certainly looks better. He's learned maybe how to play Aphelios now, which is a first for him. Yeah, I just think it's a rough situation. I mean, you were also dealing with being Vitality this last week. Part of the sweet revenge, I'm sure, was BDS with Labrov ending Vitality's summer season, right? And possibly their chance to go to Worlds as well, depending on how the rest of the league shakes out and the rest of the group stage. There's another player that could have been on this roster, and at least in the current year, has looked better than Kaiser. So I think it's tough. I think it's tough with Vitality. I hate to see them.
I don't follow ERLs, but from the people I know who do, they tell me actually this is the worst ever time to have their academy team, the ERL team, because basically in the past, the Vitality B was usually one of the best LFL teams. As far as I know, they're actually not that good now, so it's not even the best time to bring people up, even.
You might be able to pull somebody from another team. There's a wealth of teams that might be willing to sell you players. And Vitality has been willing to buy.
I'll tell you the problem right then. One, there's only so much budget in the world, Monty. They already, in this team and CSGO lineup, did super teams, then added another piece, and then added another piece. There's only so many $100,000 buyouts you can do. So what happens is not only can you not do that, but I'll tell you what else happens if you're G2 and you're Vitality. The price goes up for you. You know that thing in Hollywood, Monty, where you can't make a movie for $1 million. Doesn't matter who's in it, because they charge you 5 times more when they hear your Hollywood production is the one hiring the van, the truck, the place. That happens if you're a massive team. Like if you know Vitality's over a barrel and it's Vitality, my buyout now is $200,000. I know I'm just an ERL player. That's what they've done though. Yeah, that's how it goes. Because by the way, there are still players, as far as I know, that have contracts that don't list the buyout price. The team can just set it. Why that's still a thing in esports, I'll pretend I don't know, but it's nonsense, isn't it? Like that, they can't run a sport like that, mate.
I feel bad though, because the amount of money this team has spent over the last couple of years has been absolutely outrageous for these results. And it's certainly not good for the scene. And it's certainly not good. I mean, people can celebrate Vitality's downfall if you like, but honestly, the best possible thing was that this team was actually good with this roster, because do you guys want to compete with Asian teams?
No, Monty, here's the thing. They love that Vitality failed, but now they're all going to, are you ready? This is my prediction. They're now going to flame the ever-living fuck out of Mad Lions or BDS when they go and fail Worlds. Get ready.
Of course.
Whichever one goes there and shits the bed, they're going to go, it's just the best Europe can produce. No, dickhead, you cheered and prayed on the downfall of the best Europe could produce. By the way, you know when Reckless played in those Fnatic lineups in Season 9, I wanted them to make Worlds, you cretin. They were one of the best teams in the region. Why would I want them to get magically upset by Schalke and them go to Worlds? They would have made a fucking laughing stock of the European region. So it's one thing when you're regionally, I get you cheering, but you have to look at the bigger picture. Like Monty says, the other thing they did with that team is lock all that talent into one team. Think about how many teams we could upgrade today if we start taking Vitality apart. Like, let's take Upset and let's put him on another team. Like, maybe he goes right now to, let's say, Koi. Maybe he joins Koi. Maybe that's the team for him. Then let's take fucking Bo, and then he goes to, I don't know, Astralis. And then we take fucking Perks, and we put him on, you pick, maybe BDS. You know what I mean? We can make these teams the fucking already better teams. But instead, we've got all of them locked in one team, and now they're just going to be thrown into Tartarus for the next 6 months while shitters go and play Worlds.
I mean,
look it up.
imagine Photon and Upset on Heretics.
There you go. Mate, Photon, literally, even the way they play, they could win the LEC straight up if they had Photon. He doesn't have to do anything different. Play your carry champs, do what you want. You're not even going to be as dumb as Adam. You actually probably win the fucking league.
Yeah. Heretics is obviously like one top laner away from, like even halfway decent top laner away from being a contender. And credit to Peter Dunn. I mean, he's a
monster.
He continues to play to the strengths of his roster and make sure that his teams are playing in a stylistic way that enables the best of his players. He squeezes
Mac
a ton of value.
Him. Mac is his protege. Peter Dunn, unironically, like changed European League of Legends. The guy's a wizard.
Yeah, and also, I don't even necessarily agree with you that Peter Dunn is better suited on smaller teams. He was perfectly capable of handling Inspired's ego, and Inspired has a massive ego. He is a massive diva, and he was able to deal with that on EG. So I think Peter Dunn can do a lot.
My problem is this, mate. I think LCS is the little kids table. I don't give a fuck about it. There you go. I like them apples.
I mean, that's just objectively true in terms of viewership and in terms of performance. What can you
And
say?
also the league that is the only streamlined region in the whole world. Like, it is the same shit overall. It's the same 5v5s and go to the Baron. Like, give me a break. Like, that's the point. Like, that's why I would be very interested, Monty. All right, how about this? What if no changes to the roster? Peter Dunn takes Vitality. You want it? You want your boy to have the call up? It's got all the pieces, mate. You want that call up?
No.
Why not? Why don't you want to drink from the poison chalice?
Because
you don't want to be the lost crusade at the end, like, choose.
Because it might fix Vitality's problems, but I think it's unlikely. Like, I think Perks has to come into a new environment like he did on Cloud9, not have coaches come into an established environment like he had this year on Vitality.
By the way, low key, I'll just say this as well, because no one's thought of this angle. Spoiler, the second part of my interview with Carlos is out now on my YouTube channel, and it links at the end to a side channel interview just about life, family, integrity, how to deal with online here. But here's the point I was going to make. Carlos not only finessed Fnatic so they couldn't get Perks and they couldn't get these other players and they lost Reckless. It's worse than that. He also finessed Fnatic and Vitality, because remember, he made that thing which caused the Carlos rule to be created, where once he sold Perks to Cloud9, there was a hidden clause that said during this contract you can't then sell him to Fnatic. So that meant he went to Vitality for, I heard Jack made money on that deal. He got more than the million. So he indirectly finessed Vitality out of millions. They've never gone to Worlds off it. They've never done anything massively impactful with that. And it's ruined their team with all the money. So in many ways, and meanwhile, Carlos, maybe he's still in G2. Maybe, who knows? We can only speculate, of course. All I'm saying is his team still winning splits. What do you know? The bad guy, another one for the bad guy. I can't keep getting away with it, can he? You can't keep getting away. Oh, that's right. He literally is getting away in an Aston Martin. Well, I guess he can't get away with it then. Cool. Yeah, that's right. That's right, kids. You know that guy who's a loser and got cancelled? He drives James Bond's car, you fucking moron. You're not even allowed to just buy those randomly. Like, you have to actually know what you're doing, know someone. It's like they accept people, they cost a lot. Just look into it. Haha, you are a loser incel. He's James Bond, you fucking idiot. So, okay. I think he wins that one. Let's see. Does the Weeb anime avatar win on Twitter or Carlos? I think that's a Carlos. Carlos wins either there. I'll give you see you for round two, guys. See you for
anime avatars in shambles.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely in shambles. They won't even know which of the illnesses listed in their bio is most plaguing them today.
Jesus Christ.
Mate, I personally don't think it's cool to list all your fucking mental illnesses in your bio. I think that's actually a really disturbing social phenomenon. I think it actually opens you up to be attacked on those grounds, people to manipulate you quite cynically. I would say there's a reason when I was a boy, they told you not to share medical information and private things about yourself. It's called keeping yourself and people you care about safe, mate.
It's not a bad point. It does open you up to a lot of potential downside for sure.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.